don't know what way you do it.
Like that. How many arses has this been on?
Don't mind.
Good morning, welcome to today's video. It's BikeFit Tuesdays today.
On a Monday.
And we're actually doing a bike fit.
Well, there's a bike.
Welcome to Sigma Sport, BikeFit Studio.
Bikes.
It's going to be magical.
Look at this bad boy.
It's going to be a long session.
What are we doing today?
Well, you missed it because you turned up late.
Yeah. Well, all of it. You did two
arrived
bike fits
in this like big sweaty mess.
Sunburn.
We're doing a bike fit, seeing as it's Bike for Tuesdays, but it's a Monday.
Double bike fit.
Double bike fit. We're going to do road bike, and we're going to use that as a premise to kind of get a bit of an understanding of how Chris moves around on a bike. And then we're going to move over to his time trial bike, which has got a very interesting position. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I think it'll be quite interesting to see the difference between them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to shoot a load of video today. We're going to do some pressure mapping. We'll be objective about it. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be good. I'm excited.
Helmet squeeze.
Helmet squeeze.
What have you found?
I reckon Chris has a
prosthetic leg.
I reckon Chris might have forefoot varus, which is relatively uncommon. But yeah, it seems like there's quite a lot of inversion in his feet.
These are the dots.
These are the dots
that appear in your house for months and months after the bike fit.
They end up on coffee mugs and on the floor. And
I found one.
Seriously, I found it
Francis,
everywhere.
Yeah.
Amy found one at the pub.
What? Do you think you're relaxed at this point in time?
Relatively, yeah.
Think about the saddle. Two distinct pressure points at the back of the saddle.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is one more pronounced than the other?
Right side.
Right side's more pronounced than the
Yeah.
left. Expected. There's nothing crazily wrong going on with your position. But it's interesting that some of your physical attributes tie up quite well with your pain that you experience. Chris is having some occasionally experiences some lateral pain on the outside of his left knee. I think that we might have found a slight leg length discrepancy in the left leg, so the left leg being slightly shorter. And we can back this up in quite a few different ways. So if you have a look at this, you can see there's a bit of a movement pattern driving off to the left-hand side. You see how these two dots, this dot's a little bit closer to the line than the left dot is, right? Okay. We can back it up with how you're feeling. You felt as though you're engaging more with the right side of the saddle than you are with the left. Now, this is really common with individuals that have leg length differences. If you've got someone that has one leg shorter than the other, use Barry's pelvis here, what you have a tendency to sit off to the side of the shorter leg, all right?
Yeah, I could.
So you start engaging more with the right side of the saddle than you do with the left,
yeah.
all right? We can also back it up with pressure mapping. So if we squeeze at this, so numbers represent microbars, barometric pressure. First and foremost, you can see most of the pressure is going through the nose of the saddle, all right? But also, from a left-right balance perspective, we're driving significantly more pressure through the right side of the saddle than we are on the left. So this is really good in the sense that what you're feeling is consistent, what you're seeing is consistent, and what pressure mapping is telling is consistent.
Yeah.
Every now and then, and actually pretty commonly, technology sort of doesn't match up with what you're seeing. And, that's why it's so important not to exclusively be driven by technology. I mean, this is why I have the approach that I do of asking questions and engaging with my customers, trying to get them to understand, or trying to understand exactly how they're feeling on the bike. So it's all good stuff, really. I mean, there's definitely room for improvement. I think we're going to be doing a fair bit of correction on your feet today, or at least we're going to experiment with it and see what happens. But it's just interesting that left-right balance is, you can still perceive it.
Yeah.
And I guess this is one of the pitfalls of using a left-right balance in a power meter. So if you have an unaccounted for leg length discrepancy, or you run the saddle too high, which results in you sitting off to one side, what you're actually doing is training asymmetry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's important to get the position right and good in the first place, and then start really focusing on like eking out the power and improving on the left-right balance.
G8 pronounced gate.
What's the bag all about?
You know what? I don't know. David, what's the bag all about? David, if you're watching, what's the bag all about? I think
it's a little bag, just in case you want to carry your adjustments.
It's to carry your
helmets.
Yeah,
Helmets in.
it's to carry your arch pieces.
Oh, because you might need to take them with you on a ride.
Yeah. 3mm leg length stack to your left shoe. And I'll tell you what, it's probably best we compare both. Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, massive reduction in overall pressure through the nose and saddle, but our left-right balance is much better. I mean, this is never going to be exactly.
And that's just your shoes?
That's just by changing your shoes. So we fitted a leg length stack to his left shoe, and now all of a sudden we've got improvement in the pressure distribution to the saddle.
Done. Okay, done.
Changing saddles.
To what?
Specialised roping.
Oh no, we don't like specialised. Look, I mean, you know, this is my old faithful. It works for a lot of people, or it doesn't work for some. I guess it's often my starting point.
Yeah.
Because you know, this is just experimentation. Just see what happens. But like I say, I know that it's. I've got a lot of experience with it. It's a good baseline. It's a stable saddle. It's. You know, I get a lot of really good feedback from it.
Loads of people use them.
Yeah,
there's a reason for that.
So we're just going to see what happens. So we like this saddle.
Yeah.
Why do we like the saddle though?
I think it feels like I'm getting more support at the rear end of it.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm slumping forward on it or anything.
And it's flat.
Yeah, I guess the interesting thing about saddles is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Most people will, like, real common pitfall of experimentation with saddles is that I get guys that come in and they've got a box of like 10 saddles, right, that they try. Not once have they measured the saddle height when they change the saddle.
Yeah.
So if you're experimenting with different saddles, make sure you measure your saddle height first, and when you fit a new saddle, make sure it's the same height.
Yeah, take out all the
because otherwise, you know, if you go from a Physique Antares to a Physique Alianti, you increase your saddle height by over a centimetre. You know, an excessive saddle height, as I've already banged on about a number of times, is the catalyst for a lot of people's issues.
What is this?
What is it, Chris?
It's a wavy woo, isn't it?
So this is an SMP Dynamic.
Wavy woo.
This is one of the very few saddles that's actually got any genuine medical backing behind it. It's like the American Society for Urology or something like that. Even though it's an Italian saddle. But yeah, I get kind of mixed results with this. Sometimes people really like it, some people don't.
It locks you into a position quite aggressively, right?
The interesting thing about these is that if you can't get it right straight away, there's quite a lot of scope for adjustment. I mean, if you look at the length of the rail, it's got a massive amount of fore-aft adjustment to it. The idea is that you sort of sit kind of in this channel, as it were.
In the wave.
Wave of the woo.
In the wave, but not on the woo.
Not on the woo. Okay. Or the other woo. You don't.
And that's a shower cap.
That's a shower cap.
It really does make it feel like you're locked in a position, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, because I always find that I move around quite a lot on the bike, which isn't a good thing necessarily.
This is your old position. You're wobbling around all over the place.
I guess actually this is an interesting compensation, what Chris is doing with his hands.
Yeah.
So
I ride like this all the time.
yeah, so it's an active compensation. If that's too far away, I'm going to go here. I mean, I know the movement I just made is a bigger one, but actually it's kind of the same thing.
Right, bike fit number 2. TT bike.
I think we need coffee.
Yeah.
So Ken, Chris's coach, has previously done some work on his time trial position and got him as aerodynamic as possible. But Ken doesn't really know anything about bike fit specifically. He's only about the aerodynamics, so we're going to fix all the rest of it. This is your TT bike that you do 20 mile TTs, 50 mile TTs, 100 mile TTs, 24-hour TTs on.
Yeah. So if it was like a 10-mile time trial setup, you'd make it as aggressive and aerodynamic as possible. But when you start to play in for the longer distance stuff, comfort has to come into it.
Yeah.
So it's quite an interesting little project, I think. And the only sort of fit I've had in it is with Ken, which is trying to basically get me as sort of streamlined, as slippery as possible. Not so much about, like, the fit is just done by, he's not a bike fitter at the end of the day. He's done it by what he perceives looks okay, and did tweaked and then adjusted.
You're really sunburned.
So are you.
All right.
Start point.
Wavy word. It's quite unorthodox, isn't it? But we like unorthodox. Right? I think it all looks pretty good. There's, apart from this shifty-looking character in the corner here playing with his moustache. But you know, pedaling dynamics look good. He's not overextending. He's not underextending. I wonder whether he's folding himself in half a little bit. If you look at this kind of this bend in his spine here. I wonder whether he's kind of getting to the point where he doesn't really want to go much lower, and it's just flexion at the spine. Kind of Chris really agrees with me on that. We might look at different crank length just to see if it's kind of imposes any, you know, improved sustainability for this kind of lower front end. So I think that's, you know, we'll play with saddles as well. Saddles, crank length, and front end height. I think other than that, the rest of it's pretty good. I mean, you know, I don't think we need to raise or lower your saddle. We can have a go at raising the saddle a little bit, considering it's the same saddle height we've just set in your road bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think again, in a similar fashion to the road bike, I think we're probably going to be refining rather than making, you know, a complete overhaul to the position, which is a great thing because it means, you know, less rider adaptation. Less of a change. So, but what happens if we go back to where you were, which is there?
Feel it across here.
Yeah.
Why are you adjusting crank length?
So we've noticed a bit of a disparity between how Chris pedals on his road bike compared to how he rides on his time trial bike, and actually I can show you. We've got some video analysis footage here. So there's quite a lot more abduction in this left, particularly the left knee, as it comes out at the top of the stroke. So this is his road position, the starting position of his road bike, whereas the starting position of his time trial bike, you can see that it's, yeah, this is one of the pitfalls of taking the front end too low. You can do it on a time trial bike, you can do it on a road bike. Yeah. If it's too low and your hip mobility isn't sufficient to allow you to function, then, you know, this is inefficient. It's not an efficient way of riding a bicycle. Exactly. You know, so although you might be aerodynamically, potentially you might be more slippery, you're unable to drive the power. So you're how you say, pissing into the wind. We're going to look at changing the crank length. We've brought the front end up by quite a lot already, about 3 centimeters, but that seems to have yielded quite a lot more comfort. And it's hard to say at this point in time whether it's going to make him any fast, but I imagine it'd probably make the holding this position a little bit more sustainable.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, it's sort of, like I say, it's slight speculation at this point in time, but it's kind of informed speculation nonetheless. A few different saddles, and none of them have really yielded massive changes. So it sort of, it makes me wonder, you know, because you're saying you're not hugely comfortable with the saddle, with this saddle. It begs the question: is it the saddle? Is the position the driver for the discomfort? I mean, we already know that we've taken the front end quite a lot higher, and you know, again, going from what I've learned, if it's too high or too long, too low or too long, you will end up sort of destabilizing. So I sort of wonder whether that might be an element of it. Unfortunately, we just kind of try in the real world. We can't do on that, Mike. But we can actually. We can try it in the real world. We can flip the stem. It's going to look pig ugly, but you know, as a means of actually testing a position, it's probably the best way to go. And this exercise, they are very low at the front end.
So this gap here,
yeah.
Do you think it actually makes a big difference?
Yeah, it does. I think. So the idea of the gap is it's to alleviate soft tissue pressure, and we're looking for your skeleton to be supported by these two parts here. You see quite a lot of people riding these on road bikes, and this is one of the few saddle brands that you can fit to a road bike and not, when the saddle's too high, and you can not experience gentle issues, gentle discomfort, gentle numbness, whatever it might be. To that end, and you know, it's a pretty broad statement and possibly an unpopular one, but I don't feel these have any place on a road bike. It's generally my feeling, but I'll never say never. But with a time trial bike or a triathlon bike, I think it's a great brand. It's a good product. It's very good at alleviating soft tissue. They come in lots of different shapes and sizes as well, this brand. So yeah, I do think it helps. We took the crank length on Chris's bike from 172.5mm down to 165, which is comparatively quite a lot shorter. But for the same effort, cadence went up 5 RPM and speed went up by over a mile an hour, which is a pretty astounding finding, really. I mean, it's hypothetical at this point in time, but it's encouraging nonetheless. And I think if we have the ability to experiment with that and try it,
why not?
It's absolutely. It's going. Short crank's going to improve hip function. It's going to lessen fatigue. Ultimately, it's going to be more efficient for a longer distance. We need to be thinking about Ironman fitting here rather than time trial fitting here, which is they're slightly different.
Am I right in saying that short crank length only is going to be a detriment if you're accelerating loads and loads?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it tends to be more detrimental at low cadence and high torque. So climbing with 165mm crank on a road bike feels a bit odd. I speak from experience. I had a 165 on one of my bikes before. It does feel a bit weird, but there are certain studies that suggest that even shorter is better. I'm not alone here. I don't stand alone on the short crank length thing. And actually, it's not short anyway. It's just shorter than what we're used to.
And what every bike manufacturer puts around their bikes,
totally.
It might not be the right thing.
Well, this is it. We need to start challenging tradition.
It's your duty.
Well, yeah, it's my duty to make people. Well, let's not get hasty, mate. Come on. Although I like it, you're going to start calling me sire. I think. I think we should start challenging tradition. Now is the time.
And that's stat on its own says itself. If you're looking at a 5 RPM increase and potentially a mile an hour, it potentially more faster.
No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
At this point in time, the only changes we really want to make to your position are the shorter crank and raise the front end. All of that's going to open the hip angle up a little bit more. Now, one of the things that we've found with Chris was one of the inhibitors in his position for the 24-hour attempt was mostly saddle issues. Well, one of the elements was saddle issues, and I think given that Chris potentially has a leg length discrepancy, which we've now factored in. I am pretty confident that issue might not rear its ugly head again.
I'm doing my freaking shorts up, mate.
Well, what do you think of the fit?
I think that the findings. I mean, we already knew. I think we had an idea that my road bike would be pretty close, but I'd never had anything like a professional fit with a TT, and being able to adjust the crank length, for example, so easily and quickly. That's, you're talking
mega.
That could be mega. That kind of saving.
Any concluding words?
Oh, it's lunchtime.
Yeah?
It's always lunchtime.
What's going on?
Hey man.
Fancy seeing you here.
Fancy being with you.
You've just been hanging out in Kingston all day.
Yellow submarine.
With the yellow submarine.
Yeah. No, we've been waiting for you. Because we saw you mess around in Sigma Sport. No food, no cards.
There's no food. They don't take cards. It's like they don't want our money.
What? What kind of place is this?
Yeah.
They've got some leaves in there.
Vegan leaves.
Yeah. Well.
Are we going somewhere else?
What other? They're not going to be meaty leaves, are they?
It's like, oh yeah, let's go here, and then no one can buy anything because they don't have anything.
Race number.
Lucky number 25.
Mental age.
So, are we about to show off the bike that you've been wanting to show off in the videos for ages?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's my bike.
Oh, it's green.
My mate Trev made that. This is an Autumn Frameworks, made by Trevor Watson in southwest London. It's a Columbus owner, steel frame. It's brass brazed, and I guess the like with a lot of things, the quality of the bike's not just the sum of its components. There's quite a lot of, we're seeing a resurgence in steel frames in recent years. They're becoming pretty trendy. Steel is real. But with that comes, an epidemic of new frame builders who've been on a 3-day course and then put a nice lick of paint on it, and they can command quite a high price for a frame. So the difference with Trev is he didn't go on a 3-day course where you pay your money and there's no failure rate.
He went on a 4-day course.
He went on a 4-day course. No, he spent a couple of years as an apprentice with a guy called Cliff Shrub, who's a master frame builder. He used to build frames for a load of different frame manufacturers in the 80s. Built frames for 40, 50 years. So I believe in this product. It's made to a higher standard. It's made with more love, more care and attention, and it's got a nice lick of paint on it as well. It's Cold Coatings Workshop Paint, who do a lot of work for most of the other steel frame manufacturers. I've got a pair of mud guards that aren't on this bike at the moment that are painted to match. It's custom painted Silka pump and painted stem to match as well.
And it's wicked.
It's great. It's a great bike to ride. It's comfortable. It's really stiff. There was me expecting it. I've had a few steel bikes before and they've all been noodles, whereas this is really
Proper.
very, very good indeed. So I love it. It's great. It's well finished. It's well made. Look Trev up. It's Autumn Frameworks is the name of the brand. He makes some really incredible stuff. He's not restricted by tradition or anything like that. He'll do whatever you want regarding frame building. That is. So yeah.
That is
There it is.
Bike for Tuesdays.
Bike for Tuesdays.